This is going to be very important in this course because we're talking about holistic health. Somebody give me your opinion of what you think holistic health is. Anybody?
Mind, spirit, and body.
Mind, spirit, and body? It's the totality of the human being, right? The physical, the spiritual, the mental, the flesh, emotional. So remember this. This is it's almost like your mission, if you will, your mission statement. Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. And his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought unto him all sick people that were taken with divers diseases and torment, and those which were possessed with devils. Now let's stop right here. As a medical missionary, you have to also understand how to deal with the spiritual. Holistically, what we're talking about, right? Yeah. The spiritual, the mental, and the physical. Flash emotional. So, sometimes you will have a person who the underlying cause of their sickness is demon possession. So if the underlying cause of the sickness is demon possession, you and I have to be able to recognize that. Right? Now, we said earlier that 9/10, which we'll get to, 9/10 of all diseases have their origin where? You hear me repeat that over and over and over and over again. That's how important it is. 9/10 of all diseases have their origin where? So what's 9/10? What percentage is that? 90% of all diseases have their origin in the mind. So if a person has a disease, it's a 90% chance that it originated in the mind, and so you now have to address the mental side of it. You may say, well, I want to give you some cayenne pepper or some charcoal or this, and then it doesn't work, and you'll be wondering why. Always remember that law. 90% of all diseases have their origin in the mind. If you remember that and put it into force, you'll do well. It says, and they brought to him all people that were sick, and they were taken with divers diseases and torment, and those which were possessed with devils, and those which were lunatics. Now, here is the differentiation. Some people are possessed with demons. Some people have chemical imbalances in their minds that make them crazy. Right? You have to be able to determine. Sometimes it could be the demon possession that's causing the lunacy. And those that had the palsy, and what happened? He heals them, right? Now, second thing is very important to remember. Probably should be first. God is the one that heals diseases. It is not the herb. It is not you or I, intelligence or wisdom. It is God. Now, God may have his healing properties within the herb, or within the exercise, or within whatever. But at the end of the day, it is God that heals, and you and I have to always put 100% trust in God. Now, understand this. A lot of times, a person will be sick. And they're so sick, they may even be a Christian, they're so sick and they're suffering so much that they don't have the faith to hold on. Guess what? Did you know that God, if you have faith, God would take your faith in the place to help heal that person where they don't have the faith to do so. That's why it's very important for you as a medical missionary to have faith in God. And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of diseases. So now, who are his disciples? We're his disciples, right? So does this text indicate that he gave us, or is willing to give us, the same powers that he had to the extent of healing diseases? and sicknesses and driving out unclean spirits? He says, as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And what else did he say? Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, cast out devils. Now, does that include, is that holistic ministry? That's holistic ministry, right? You're dealing with the whole man. That's the crux. Now, we're going to switch gears and go over here to mind-body therapy.
In the case of casting out, evil spirits, it takes that person's cooperation. Usually they came to Christ in some manner for help.
Right. And normally people who welcome the evil spirits, normally they don't have a problem with them. It's typically, when you look through the Bible, you typically find those who Satan is taking complete control of and who they're almost crying out for help. And so this is why it's so important. You have to, please don't underestimate this, because mark my words, there's going to be somebody in here, if you learn or go out to put in to practice what you've learned, you're invariably going to come across somebody who's possessed. Or who is so sick. Remember, our connection with Christ, that's going to be your secret. That's going to be your power. Now, you have to combine that connection with knowledge as well. The Bible says in Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for what? Lack of knowledge. So, now, mind-body therapy. Now, we're going to be talking about this. This is very, very important. 9/10 of all diseases have their origin where? In the mind. Now, let's look at how this concept is actually found in the Bible. It says here, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bone. So here we're seeing how the mind, the attitude, the emotions affect what? The body. Now, if your bone marrow dries up, what's going to happen? You're going to develop some disease, right? Are any of your white blood cells produced in your bone marrow? We got a couple of medical doctors in here. Are any white blood cells produced in your bone marrow? Yeah. Any red blood cells produced in your bone marrow? Yes. So, you can affect your immune system, right? You can affect your immune system. How? By a broken spirit. Is that not your mind affecting your body? That's what's happening, right? Now, who created the body? If God created the body, and that same God gives us the Bible, and he tells us, listen, if you have a merry heart or a joyful heart will react upon your body as if you took a medicine. So now, remember we said 9/10 of all diseases have their origin in the mind? Right? You must start here. Do you have something, brother, that's troubling you? Why you see something wrong? Are you stressed out? Almost 100% of the time, when somebody has a health issue, in my experience, then when you ask them, are you stressing over something? Guess what they say? 100% of the time, okay, they're stressed, right? So if they're stressed out and they're worried about it, that means they might not have a merry heart. And if a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, then the first recommendation that you need to prescribe is something to help with what's causing the unmerry heart. We shouldn't be so quick to say, oh, okay, take this, right? Take that. It's not always that simple. And that's what you have to remember about the medical missionary work. It's not always just take this, take that. You have to sit down and say, okay, why are you stressed out? Well, and one of the things we're going to look at in this course is what questions to ask. I've asked people, so you have stresses going on? Say, no. There's nothing stressing me out. No, nothing? No. Everything is okay at work? Yep. Everything okay at home with your wife or husband? Yep. But when you go and you ask certain questions, and if they have issues, are you exercising every day? Oh yeah, I'm exercising. There are laws that sickness only comes when you violate these laws. So if there's sickness and they're saying nothing is wrong, something is wrong. It's just you have to figure out with them what's wrong. Let's all read that together. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Here again shows the power and the influence of the thoughts upon you as a human being. Now, this is from book Ministry of Healing. And this is one of the books that you're supposed to have for this course. And you're going to have some reading to do for this next week. Ministry of Healing. Page 241. It says here, the relation that exists between the mind and the body is very intimate. When one is affected, the other sympathizes. So let's stop right there for a moment. Let's break this down. If your body is affected, your mind sympathizes with it. If your mind is affected, your body sympathizes with it. Right? Now, can somebody give me the definition of sympathy?
Compassion.
Compassion, right? So that means if your body is hurt, say you cut your leg, we're being told here that your mind would sympathize with that. Or if you're worried or stressed out or you got bad news, then what's going to happen? Your body's going to sympathize with it, right? So either way, the entire body is affected. The condition of the mind, the condition of the what?
The mind.
The condition of the mind affects the health to a far greater degree than many realize. 9/10 of all diseases have their origin where? In the mind. The condition of the mind affects the health to a far greater degree than many realize. Now, did you know, and how many here has ever been stressed out and all of a sudden you get a headache? Or some students that have a big test coming up, they're studying for finals, and next thing you know you got a cold. The mind, the stress, has affected the body. Right? Again, this is the same book, same page. Many of the diseases from which men suffer are the result of what? So say you have somebody that's been diagnosed with depression. Or maybe they haven't been diagnosed with depression. And they have other issues. Now you got to have to question this. This person may have a sickness or a disease, and the secret cause is depression. 9/10 of all diseases have their origin where? Many of the diseases from which men suffer, many. Does many mean few or does it mean many? Many of the diseases from which men suffer are the result of mental depression. Then we're told, we're given some actual emotional, I guess you could say, words to describe some of the things that affect us. Grief, anxiety, discontent, remorse, guilt, distrust, all tend to break down the life forces and to invite death and decay. So if you are dealing with someone and they are grieving, given to grief, if they're given to anxiety, if they're given to discontent, remorse, guilt, or distrust, you can know that they're killing themselves. And that's the first thing that you're going to have to deal with in most cases. In 90% of the cases, that's what you're going to have to deal with. The mental state of the person. Before you get any hydrotherapy, any herbs, any of that stuff, you got to deal with the mental state. Because let me tell you, you can give a person the most powerful herbs, and if their mind is given to stress or anxiety, guess what? Their mind is going to counteract every good thing that they can do. These are some of the things that actually is what we want to instill in people as medical missionaries. We want to instill in them courage, right? Hope. People say you get a person and they say, I'm stressed out, I have a financial issue, right? My house is, they're about to foreclose on my house. And me and my children are going to be put out. Right? That's going to be stressful, right? Mm-hmm. So now it becomes part of your duty to see how you can encourage courage, hope, faith, having sympathy. All of these promote health, and they do what? Prolong life. A contented mind, a cheerful spirit is health to the body and strength to the soul. Now, who's ever heard of this term epigenetics? One? Now, it's considered the new biology, right? It's considered the new, but it's old, you're right. Now, this whole concept, we just finished going over it, right? In the Bible and in the writing of the Spirit of Prophecy, right? We just finished going over, not by that name, but that's what we're dealing with. That's what they call it now. It says that after 15 years of research, Dr. Candace Perk, a neurophysicist, and her countless colleagues came to the conclusion via mapping the brain that the thoughts themselves, although abstract or non-material, instantaneously invoke chemical reactions in the brain called neuropeptides, right? The neuropeptides then flow to different parts of the body, influencing it on a physical level. One interviewer asked, what is the interface or junction where thoughts somehow affect us physically? Dr. Perk replied, the emotions. The emotions are the currency of exchange between mind and body. Now let me ask you a question. Those, we just read from the Ministry of Healing, that grief, anxiety, etc., affect the health negatively, right? And then we just read that courage, etc., affects the health positively, right? Are these actually emotions? These things, are they actually emotions? Is anxiety an emotion?
Yes.
Fear, guilt?
Yes.
Now, take what we just read in the Ministry of Healing, right? And take what this doctor just said and ask me, are they consistent? She says the emotions, right? The emotions are the currency between, the currency of exchange between mind and body. So let me ask you this. Was Ellen White then teaching epigenetics back then? Yes. Was the Bible teaching epigenetics back then? Yes. Or Mary Hart does good like a medicine? Yes. So they call it the new biology, but it's not really that new. We're going to talk more about this epigenetics. Says we know neuropeptides now for over 40 years as chemical signals in the brain. The discovery of neuropeptides is founded on groundbreaking research in physiology, endocrinology, and biochemistry during the last century and has been built on three seminal notions. Let's stop right there for a moment before we go any further. I have to tell you this. Now you begin to understand why the mind is so important. Remember, they say about these neuropeptides, which are what?
Signals.
And they understand these based on research in physiology, endocrinology, and biochemistry, right? So this is what this is not how they understand.